Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker, and thank you, Premier and members of this House. Honourable Leader of the Opposition in his absence, colleagues and citizens, ladies and gentlemen, and my staff in the gallery. The Provincial Treasury Budget Vote 3 is R325.3 million for 2018-19 financial year. Deputy Speaker, key areas of focus of delivery for 2018-19 financial year entail the continuation of the various key themes as reflected in the main Budget Vote 3. These themes are located in Provincial Strategic 5, which seeks to embed good governance and integrated service delivery through partnerships and spatial alignment. Deputy Speaker, we will continue to build on our past successes by strengthening good financial governance brand, as this clearly differentiates the Western Cape government from the rest of the other provinces in South Africa. Research and analysis will therefore be conducted to inform the development of the provincial local government fiscal frameworks, the budget policy, sustainability of provincial and municipal budgets. The Department will continue to provide support initiatives and advice and guidance to departments and municipalities on revenue-related and cash management matters through analysis and reporting on the in-year cash flow, investments and external borrowings for local government, as well as for revenue performance and cash management for the provincial government. Provincial Treasury will maintain departmental oversight over the Western Cape Gambling and Racing Board in support of the Western Cape Gambling and Racing Board's stated vision to be the leading gambling and racing authority in South Africa. The Department has allocated an amount of R29.3 million to the Western Cape Gambling and Racing Board. Deputy Speaker, R19.8 million is allocated to support our budget and management initiatives in Vote 3. The Provincial Government Budget Office will focus on the alignment of policy, planning and budgeting processes with an emphasis on impact evaluations and assessments of budget priorities and spending patterns. Honourable Deputy Speaker, the Provincial Budget Office will also further focus on research and analysis and assessments to support provincial departments on budget policy matters and to inform the formulation of the provincial budget policy, to recommend allocations in line with the government's strategic priorities as outlined in the Provincial Strategic Plan 2014 to 2019. The Provincial Budget Office, Honourable Deputy Speaker, will also continue to coordinate the Provincial Economic Review and Outlook and the Provincial Medium-Term Budget Policy Statement of this government to provide the economic, fiscal and policy context within which this budget is formulated. Through the overview of the provincial revenue and expenditure, the Provincial Budget Office will communicate the budget policy framework and budget priorities that will support the delivery of the Western Cape government policies, programs and projects that drive service delivery within the province. The Local Government Budget Office, Deputy Speaker, will provide research, advice and analysis on the regional and local economics to identify issues and trends which impact on local government planning, budgeting and fiscal policy matters. It is also my intention, Honourable Deputy Speaker, to further strengthen the Local Government Budget Office. Research and analysis will also once again culminate in the release of the annual Municipal Economic Review and Outlook and the socio-economic profiles for local government, also known as the SEP-LG. Guidance and advice is provided through the municipal planning and budget processes to promote what we call evidence-based budgeting. Deputy Speaker, public finance is allocated an amount of R87.8 million. This includes an amount of R38.3 million towards a financial management support grant to municipalities. Provincial government finance assess provincial budgets to improve the credibility and the sustainability of the budget and monitors the implementation and financial control of these various budgets. Local government finance, Honourable Deputy Speaker, will continue to facilitate and coordinate the implementation of the Municipal Finance Management Act in the Provincial Treasury and in municipalities. The implementation of the Municipal Finance Management Act will be driven through the IGR coordination between municipalities, the Department of the Premier, and my colleague, Minister of Local Government, and various other stakeholders. Honourable Deputy Speaker, key responsibilities in this regard include monitoring, support and intervention, including being responsive to support particularly the most vulnerable municipalities in respect of the Municipal Finance Management Act implementation, budget implementation, revenue and expenditure management. Honourable Deputy Speaker, Provincial Treasury infrastructure initiatives will focus on the institutionalization of the IMDS, the infrastructure, procurement and delivery management system, both in municipalities and also in the various provincial government departments. Deputy Speaker, Provincial Government Program Financial Governance is allocated an amount of 42.2 million rand in Vote 3. In Provincial Treasury, provide also technical support to departments and municipalities and ensure that governance and financial management improves through the application of the accounting framework, training programs, and the regular corporate governance and review action plans, also known as MGROW and CGROW. We will continue with our focus on improved financial governance, which is driven through the Corporate Governance Review and Outlook and the Municipal Governance Review and Outlook. Processes are underway, Honourable Deputy Speaker, to align these strategies with those of the Departments of the Premier, Department of Local Government, to improve efficiencies under the banner of Provincial Strategic Goal number 5, embedding good governance. Municipalities were assisted with the implementation of the new MSCOA, which became effective in the 1st of July last year. This, Honourable Deputy Speaker, as I have announced last year, is one of the major reform initiatives and naturally came with its challenges. We will continue to provide support to municipalities until such time that these challenges have been addressed. Honourable Deputy Speaker, Provincial Treasury is committed to youth development for the 2018-19 financial year. The capacity building program, graduate trainee interns, has an allocated budget of 14.5 million rand, while a further amount of 3.12 million is set aside for bursaries. 28 interns commenced their internship on the 1st of March 2018. A further 32 pay, the Premier's advancement of the youth interns, will commence their internship on the 9th of April 2018. Thanks for this program, Premier Zille. Our Chartered Accountant Academy, which aims to create a pipeline of public sector accounting professionals, is bearing its fruit. The budget for the 2018-19 financial year amounts to 5.7 million rand. Accountant trainees have increased from the initial 7 to 15 members. The 3 trainee accountants have successfully completed the certificate in the theory of accounting, and 2 trainees are awaiting the results in the initial test of competence. Deputy Speaker, 27.5 million rand is allocated towards stepping up our focus on using procurement for economic development. During the 2018-19 financial year, the Department will be seeking to conclude a strategic partnership for the provision of a supplier management and electronic procurement solution. The acquisition is intended to support the government's overall strategy for improvement in the value of money, competitiveness among suppliers, and the provision of a convenient, accessible means to do business with government. It is furthermore intended to maintain and build on the levels of policy, standardization and good governance that the Western Cape government has progressively established since the inception of the SCM modernization drive in 2009 already. At the commodity level, the Department will identify appropriate transversal contract opportunities and adopt the National Treasury strategic sourcing framework with a key focus on the areas of demand and contract management. In addition, the Western Cape Cabinet is monitoring the implementation of the preferential procurement and has instructed that a provincial economic procurement policy be developed to ensure that any target setting is focused and will generate the necessary value as intended by the preferential procurement regulations. Deputy Speaker, the economic procurement policy lies at the core of the Provincial Treasury contribution to economic growth and job creation. We can already report to this House that at least 30% of our provincial procurement spend was directed to small black businesses. Honourable Deputy Speaker, Provincial Treasury's vision is good financial governance. In the previous financial year, we have signed a good financial governance declaration. I am happy to report to this House today that we are indeed making good progress in the implementation of these good governance principles across both the departments and in the various municipalities and in the various public entities. Deputy Speaker, in order to achieve its planned objectives, the Provincial Treasury today has allocated an amount of 325.3 million rand for the 2018-19 financial year, and it is allocated as follows: for Program 1, 61.1 million, Program 2, 159.4 million, Program 3, 62.5 million, and Program 4, 42.2 million. I thank the Honourable Deputy Speaker.
Thank you. I see the Honourable Dennis Joseph.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The Standing Committee on Finance deliberated on Vote 3, Provincial Treasury with its entity, the Western Cape Gambling and Racing Board, and report that it supports the vote. The vision of the department is good financial governance. The vision will be realized through enhancing accountability, creating public value, enabling delivery of quality service, and building capacity in the public service. In the medium-term expenditure framework, the department will spend the 325,390,000 in this book year, and this will go up to 359,392 in a 2021 book year. The powers and functions of the department are captured in the Public Financial Management Act as well as the Municipal Financial Management Act. The department provides ministerial support and work closely with the Western Cape Gambling and Racing Board. The department also carries out a very important transversal function in that it develops, monitor and advise on norms and standards within the municipalities and the financial legislation within the departments. Deputy Speaker, the Provincial Treasury forms part of the Western Cape's Government Provincial Strategic Plan 5 and will ensure that good governance continue during this next financial year. Coupled to this is the service delivery through partnerships and spatial alignment. Provincial Treasury has the responsibility to ensure that all departments are involved in building a capable and developmental state as prescribed by the National Development Plan. Deputy Speaker, policy priorities will again be formulated after the research. Firstly, fiscal policy research is critical. Secondly, research in the socio-economic conditions is critical. Thirdly, Provincial Economic Review Outlook, PERO, and the Municipal Economic Review Outlook, the MERO, is critical. And fourthly, research into the sustainability of the Gambling and Racing Board is critical. Deputy Speaker, the outcome of the research will assist the Provincial Treasury with fiscal consolidation as part of the Fiscal Strategy Plan. The Cabinet and the Western Cape Government will follow. The Minister of Finance is in charge of the Ministerial Infrastructure Coordinating Committee. The value of this committee should not be underestimated. The pace of economic growth, job opportunities, skills development, and service to the people in the Western Cape is noted in this transversal cabinet and senior management responsibility. Anders as in die ander provinsies waar die hawks op ministers en senior amptenare se kantore moet besoek en beslag lê op kantoortoerusting en dokumente weens korrupsie en beweerde misdade. Deputy Speaker, the Standing Committee on Finance note the dispute between the AG. Deputy Speaker, the Standing Committee on Finance note the dispute between the AG and the Department of Agriculture as reported in the annual report. The independence of the AG must never be compromised. It is, however, important to note that the dispute has a long history and that the department has asked the AG to make known its findings on this matter in dispute. Deputy Speaker, the incident is not good for good governance, our good governance model in the Western Cape. I am sure that it is also not good for the integrity of the AG either. If there is no outcome of this dispute prior to the end of the financial year, the question must be asked, what rule apply whilst the current situation is unresolved? Deputy Speaker, Program 1 of the Western Cape Government's finance in provincial treasury is truly an example. On the contrary, the ANC and national government, where ministers are just changed like chess pieces at the mercy of the taxpayers and at the mercy of South African people. In line with Programme 1 of the programme description, Provincial Treasury governed and oversee the office of the Minister, the management services that is rendered, as well as financial management. These services are to assist the Minister and the Cabinet with functions assigned to it by the legislation. We know that the Western Cape Treasury, under Minister Meyer's management, ensures that these services are rolled out in the management of our provinces. The Minister is supported by the head of the Ministry with staff and members that fulfill their duties assigned by the legislation and or the Premier. The Minister and his office also has the responsibility to engage with international diplomatic corps. This is giving the Western Cape government the opportunity to foster relationships in support of economic growth. The Minister has also the responsibility to engage with the Western Cape Gambling and Racing Board. The sub-programs under administration include management, services and financial management. The department will continue to engage with internal audit functions. This functions which is rendered by the internal audit and is centralized in the Department of the Premier Corporate Services. The committee notes the effort by the department to fill the senior vacancies. We request that the senior management do all it can to retain the scarce skills in the department and to fill the remaining vacancies as soon as possible. The Gambling and Racing Board is now a very stable board. It is evident that they're working together, they're helping each other to make progress on this board. The organization have had many changes, but the committee note that the vacancies on the board is also ongoing, like in other boards. The Standing Committee of Finance made a request for a review of amendments relating to the appointment of board members, followed by the vacancies soon after recommendation to the Minister. We have had a discussion in the last budget committee meeting and also in previous committee meetings. I hope that we can find a solution with regard to this concern. We congratulate the new chairperson of the board, Mr. Lakay, and wish him well in his responsibility. The challenge of illegal gambling, cybercrime, illegal online gambling pose a risk for continued income and keeping the board's role for sustainable income. The committee thanked the staff in the Western Cape Gambling and Racing Board, in particular the law enforcement officials, for their commitment to stamp out illegal gambling and note the training programs to deal with illegal online gambling. The interaction of the board and staff with communities for awareness and education for responsible gambling is noted. The committee further notes the work that is done in giving financial support to programs and uplifting communities and address the needs of disadvantaged schools. Deputy Chair, I would like to take the opportunity to thank all staff in Provincial Treasury, all the leadership in Provincial Treasury, the Gambling Board and Racing Board members, as well as the staff. The committee support votes 3. I thank you.
Thank you. Honourable Bierwinkel.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, just before I start, I would really like that when MECs, or as my chairperson did now, that they report correctly on the report from the standing committees. There's a section that says Section 86 was included, meaning the ANC made their own statement regarding the budget. We did not approve it en masse. But Deputy Speaker, the committee may have, but the ANC had a minority view. Deputy Speaker, time seldom allows me to get to this point, so I want to start by acknowledging the real recipients of what should be our appreciation, and that's the staff sitting over there of Treasury, who put so much work into compiling this budget, inclusive of all other departments and their continuous assistance to us to be able to do our work when we request them to do so. And my gratitude goes to every single one of them, even those that we do not see. They are the backbone of this vote. Your dedication is commendable. While this might have been a very difficult time for you to allocate the budget, we're always reminded of your political principles, and principles spelled PA, not PLE, can do more with less, so it probably was a walk in the park for them. Having had a long history with this department and being instrumental in influencing some of the changes they've implemented over the years, they also know that it wasn't and isn't always smooth sailing. Today, of course, is no different. Now, the irony, Deputy Speaker, of this total budget, and Vote 3 in particular, is that it's purported to be a people's budget. Just as we hammered you and got you to change your stance on clean audits and what they really mean, we will continue to remind you that a people's budget can never be sincere if they are not consulted. Treasury isn't even a real service delivery department in the true sense. Yet their oversight and guidance to both departments and municipalities is of cardinal importance. Grandstanding and listen to sarcasm when what you are presenting to us has no input from us. The first sentence of your overview reads, to promote transparency and improved oversight. But you don't like oversight and you don't want oversight. Your chairpersons are generally praise singers, as you've heard, and you'll hear for the rest of the day, except maybe two of them, who when they did have an oversight role, they were sacked, they were demoted, and they've been demoted, and they have now even lost some of the leadership position by vote rigging. I'm tired of listening to chairpersons curtailing debate when it looks like the DA, their masters, are being questioned about the principles that drive their allocations. The silo thinking and fiefdoms amongst them who haven't yet grasped the principles of transversality is just unacceptable. They are not cabinet members, all those members sitting at the back, all the chairpersons. They are not either members of the National Assembly in opposition. Their attention and role is oversight here in the Western Cape. But you will continue to listen to the praise singing further today. You, both MEC and officials of Treasury, sit in at MINMEC. You sit in on the Financial and Fiscal Commission. You make inputs on behalf of the people of this province. So what is it based on? Where do you get the background beside the policies based on studies done by consultants? Your allocation from national has increased year on year and is forecast to continue to grow over the MTF. I will not repeat all the numbers of the departments, you've heard them, so I won't waste time to do that, of all the programs in the department, sorry. This financial year, it has grown from 61 billion last year to 63 billion this year, and will continue to grow over the MTF to 67 billion in the 1920 year and 72 billion in the 21-21 financial years. Treasury Vote 3 allocation increases by 13% in the current financial year, with Program 2 and 3 having an 18% increase in both. Of course, compensation of employees takes the biggest chunk of this budget. In the APP, Deputy Speaker, there are plans for ministerial international engagements. However, of concern is that any lessons to be learnt or twinning arrangements only happen in DA-run municipalities, in spite of proposals made for sharing of knowledge and expertise with smaller, poorer municipalities to help them grow. I speak here in particular about the agreement signed with Bavaria, which not one less privileged municipal area being the beneficiary. Yet we are told that this budget, over which you claim to have oversight, is for the poor, or, as you put it, for the people. We ask you again, which people? You ascertain that your assertion that your decrease in conditional grants means you will now do less for the poor. You claim to do much more for them, yet when you cannot, you blame National, by implication admitting that without the assistance of National, you cannot do anything. South Africa is a unitary state, and as such, the fiscus needs to address the needs where it is most prevalent. If this province does not get as much as they expect, it means national government, National Treasury in particular, has identified a greater need somewhere else. You are to promote good governance and integrated service delivery based on national strategic outcomes through spatial alignment and sustainable budget allocation and spend. You are to provide ministerial support, improve corporate management, and provide financial admin services to the department. But more importantly, are your transversal and external responsibilities, and the ones that stand out, and I'm mentioning these specifically, Deputy Speaker, to apply them in reality. On the management of the provincial, one of them are to manage the provincial and municipal fiscal resources, to improve conformance, sustainability, and monitor the efficient implementation of the provincial and the municipal budgets, supply chain and asset management strategic drive policy in this regard and give guidance and assistance, improve the understanding and application of accounting standards across departments and municipalities, and you have a plethora of acts, rules and regulations to guide and assist this process. The most glaring omission, though, is that though the Auditor General is very clear that all sectors of government are now moving over to GRAP standards, neither you or Vote 11 mention this National Treasury important document and guideline called National Treasury Generally Recognized Accounting Practices for National and Provincial Departments of 2016. Yet, Deputy Speaker, it's that very guideline document that spells out how accounting by principals and agents should be managed and interpreted, clearly pointing out that your Vote 11 interpretation of transfer payments and goods and services is questionable. And worse, you support the fact that a department without existing all avenues should take the AG to court. How have you guided the rest of departments if these guidelines were not taken into account or even mentioned in any other department? How have you assessed, reviewed, and assisted in the prevention of irregularities and material misstatements in both modified cash basis of accounting applied by the departments and accrual basis of accounting by public entities? Yet a financial misstatement is the very reason why Vote 11 is in dispute with the Auditor General and are planning to go to court to decide on the matter. One of your comments in your review of financial year 2017-2018 states that you provided training services in respect of transversal financial systems to all provincial departments and where required to other provincial and national departments. The question is what and why? And here, we don't need a grandstand, just a clear understanding of why this was necessary. Another statement says, moving ahead to your outlook, of course, the Pero and Mero are of cardinal importance to influence the policy and budget allocations. The local government budget office plays a crucial role here by advising on the analysis that affects and has an impact on local government planning, budget and fiscal policy matters. Experience has taught us that you can analyze and advise, but until you consult, inform, educate the communities that are being budgeted for, the IDP and the following budget is a desktop lie. You say that you guide and advise through municipal planning and budgetary processes to promote evidence-based budgeting. Let me give you an example of why I continuously harp on this issue. Speak to the newly appointed municipal manager of Swellendam as an example, and one of the first things he mentioned, and I'm going to read it verbatim. Mr. Anton Groenewald has been appointed, and he says, what? They ask him, what are your challenges and rewards? And he very honestly says, they say, he doesn't duck potentially difficult questions. When asked what he considered his greatest challenges to be, he replied that the limitation of resources faced by the municipality and a polarization within the broader community are important tests. There are strong community emotions towards the council negative social ills in the poorer communities, and seemingly lack of opportunity for people of colour. The expectation is that the municipality must address these barriers. This is a newly appointed municipal manager, just walked into the job, and like that, he identified the needs of this municipality, supposed the best in the country. Exactly. Exactly. But the point I'm making, MEC Fritz, is that all along, this municipality has been punted on a big board as the best in South Africa. Why would the municipal manager say that? Based on which standards? By your own admission, don't justify things that are wrong. Please don't. So I dare you to go into any community, Deputy Speaker, and ask how many public participation meetings took place before the municipal budget was approved, and I will be vindicated. By your own admission, you run most of municipalities. Then why, in spite of your grandstanding MEC, do we have service delivery protests right here outside this building on a regular basis? The poor and uninformed of this province are really being taken for granted. Top-down approach. And consultants who don't even live in the area are allowed to sit in and dictate policy for the people they don't even know. How come in your oversight municipal budgets you do not foresee or curtail the imminent downgrade of City of Cape Town rating agencies? One of this based on your DA disastrous handling of the water crisis. Remember, economist Mike Schuessler says, and I quote, "A downgrade of the city's credit rating would be dire for the local economy and would have a profound consequence on the whole of South Africa. The DA's future plan and to plan and implement water demand management systems earlier has the potential to harm the province's credibility. Such negligence," unquote. In one breath, you use the poor rainfall over the years for the problem, and then in the next breath, you blame the previous minister, Mokonyane, for the crisis as if she determines when it should rain. The one place, Deputy Speaker, in Scopa that we always spend most of our time on in any department is on goods and services, and Treasury won't escape that. The total spend on consultants in Treasury has increased by 29%, from 20 million to 26 million, and the reason given is that the Western Cape, with permission from Cabinet, wants to invest in a study for a fuel levy. Why should a province, which is part of a unitary state, where such policies are determined by national government, want to even think about something like this? As you yourselves often say, you are not an island, and you add that you are not part of a federal state, but this approval was given by Cabinet. Why? This is totally unacceptable. This budget is supposed to be for the people. You grandstand about the implications of a VAT increase, but in the background, you plan a fuel levy. Who will pay that? You also the spend on business and advisory services increased by 100% from 3.9 to 8 million in Program 2. While we will never support gambling, we also understand that this is part of your own revenue source. But you also year on year make the commitment to enhance this income by different or more innovative ways, yet because LPMs, that means lower payout machines, did not bring in as much revenue as expected, the allocation to Western Cape Gambling Board is increased. That's a contradiction. The ANC is happy that the LPMs are not making much money, which proves our stance that people, mostly the poor, have less disposable income because of loss of work opportunities. Remember, these are the machines that only pay out about 500 and just over 500 at the most. So it's not the rich that gamble at those machines, it's the poor. We will carefully monitor the unspent revenue set aside to assist vulnerable municipalities later in the year when they submit their business plans. Again, we will question who was consulted and how the requests are justified. For too long, We've watched staged performances here, but the people who should be consulted are never here in this house, or when public participation exercises are taken outside of this house from area to area across the province. It is a concurrent, fruitless and wasteful expenditure over which you have oversight but never mentioned. I thank you.
Honourable Mackenzie.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The Western Cape Finance MEC, Dr. Ivan Meyer, and his department should once again be commended that the Western Cape remains financially sound. Whilst we grapple in our worst drought in over a century and enduring the effect of a sluggish economic growth, the 52% fuel levy and the 1% VAT, under these circumstances, the Minister Meyer and the Treasury has managed to keep the machine well oiled and ready to deliver. The Western Cape Treasury has prioritized sustainable financial resource management with a strategic focus on effective and efficient management of provincial and municipal resources. The tabling of this provincial budget will ensure financial stability, not only to assist the provincial government, but municipalities in the preparation and adjustments of their budgets. Deputy Speaker, it is noteworthy and pleasing to see that although the department has increased the budget, as said earlier, to 325 million, that during this difficult fiscal period, that they're leading from the front in also cutting where it's much needed. Our job is to ensure that we hold the executive to account, and for Treasury to ensure that they monitor and also holds department to account when it comes to their spending. In this regard, Deputy Speaker, if we look at Program 2 and 3, it was fitting to see when we visited Beaufort West, and we've highlighted this in the committee, that the department's officials was busy working there in ensuring that the municipal finances and assisting the municipality with the local government assistance. When the Finance Committee recently met, some of the programs that we went through with the department was the bursary funding, the municipal funding, and the co-funding program, and the department acknowledged and commended the Treasury departments for ensuring there's funding available for these programs. At the same time, we want to implore on the department to ensure municipalities are actually implementing these programs and ensuring that students that go from their municipalities partake in these bursary programs. Deputy Speaker, as the Oversight Committee, we will monitor the generally recognized accounting program of Kanaland, or the GRAP of Kanaland Municipality, and ask that the department keeps the committee informed of the progress to ensure that there's no irregularities and the negative impact of any accounting irregularities affect the services of our people. Deputy Speaker, as highlighted also by several members earlier on, we were very pleased to see that the Auditor General, when they met with the Department of Agriculture, and we were happy to see that the Minister has made an undertaking to write to the National Minister of Finance to ensure that this matter, when it relates to the Department of Agriculture, is resolved speedily. The committee is also aware that there's currently possible legislative amendments when it comes to the Western Cape Racing and Gambling Board, with specific reference to appointing the candidates next on the list when it comes to shortlisting of candidates, so that our committee don't have to re-interview candidates every time there's a vacancy on this board. For this regard, we are also aware the 1% increase VAT will have on the provincial treasury, and we know that they have taken measures to ensure that services in Treasury is not affected. The financial soundness of this department, it has continuously translated in unparalleled, effective and sufficient service delivery to other departments and to the Western Cape government. And we did ask the Department of the Treasury, where they implement best practices in their departments, that they also duplicate that in other departments. One of the items they did do was the extension of the asset management program, to ensure that where there's no urgent need when it comes to desk and stable and movable assets, that they extend it by another year or two, and that should be duplicated in other departments. Deputy President, Deputy Speaker,
Thank you.
speaking from my mouth to God's ears, we'll see you there. We're going there in 2019. Deputy Speaker, when it comes to the local government office under Program 2, where they've done extensive research and advice and analysis on the regional and local economists during our budget committee meetings, we asked them to make sure that that information is not only passed on to other departments, but also to various committees, so that those can be used when we interrogate the budget departments of all the departments. We therefore welcome the service-led and center-led approach from the department, and wants to thank the officials, the Minister, the Western Gambling Board, the Western Cape Racing and Gambling Board, for ensuring that during this tough period, that they have a people-centered focus on this budget. So we thank the Minister and all his officials, and Deputy Speaker in the committee. We fully supported this budget. Even the ANC's minority view was saying the view that they note the deliberations and they did not object to this budget. So for that, we want to say thank you, Member Vehicle, that implicit support for this vote. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honourable Simmers.
Baie dankie, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, in the Western Cape, transparent, accountable and good governance has become the expected norm from all the people we serve. Whereas on the other hand, Deputy Speaker, South Africans in other provinces are unfortunately subjected to experiencing the ongoing effects of the national government's wasteful expenditure and maladministration, continuous corruption, yes, corruption is aanhoudend, continuous corruption, along with being plagued by state capture for almost a full decade. And its impact we are only starting to feel now, with an increase of 1% in the VAT that ultimately will reduce the spending capacity of the poorest people of our country the most. En dis die hartseer van wat hier gebeur het. Deputy Speaker, at this point in time, this province has remained a bastion of hope for South Africans since 2009, as this provincial government and administration have remained resilient and focused year on year on the sole objective of improving the lives of all our residents in this province. Deputy Speaker, a major focal point of the Western Cape government remains ensuring that all departments are embedded in good governance, with the sole aim of ensuring enhanced service delivery for all our people. Ongelukkig is dit iets wat die ANC nie raak sien nie, lyk dit my. Maar hulle kan is 'n bietjie blind. Therefore, that the Provincial Treasury received an allocation of 1 billion rand over the MTF period solidifies this government's commitment, Speaker. Deputy Speaker. I welcome this allocation as it will provide the necessary support to all our provincial departments, entities and municipalities in improving supply chain management processes and increased access to government services. Deputy Speaker, under the trusted political leadership and administrative leadership of Finance Minister Ivan Meyer, the Western Cape Provincial Treasury has done remarkably well at performing its functions. We are fortunate in this province, Deputy Speaker, unlike many other provincial treasuries, to experience the true nature of how effective provincial treasury leadership in financial management reform is in ensuring that provincial line departments attain the financial management maturity and capability to achieve the objectives of the PFMA, which I would actually advise my colleagues on this side to go and read. The commitment to fiscal policy during these truly difficult financial times will continue to test the robustness of our provincial intergovernmental fiscal relations systems and budget coordination mechanisms. Deputy Speaker, now more than ever, it is important for the Western Cape government to squeeze inefficiencies and venal tendencies out and increase value for money and the development impact of public spending. But this can only be accomplished through a capacitated public service sector focused on service delivery. And therefore, Deputy Speaker, the fact that the Provincial Treasury has dedicated up to almost 3 million rand to the training and development of 330 out of its 425 employees is important for ensuring that service delivery continues to improve. I therefore welcome that our Provincial Treasury remains committed to building its capacity in light of the poor economic growth and several budget cuts being experienced throughout this country. Deputy Speaker, this increase in capacity building will enable that we have the team needed to ensure our province is successful in the managing of a tight financial budget, and that our Western Cape government can continue to provide support and additional training for officials at municipal level. This will inevitably contribute to ensuring that the sound financial performance across all our municipalities in this province is improved upon, as it has the last few years as well. Deputy Speaker, and really it's sad when I listen to our opposition here, but they need to realize that the governing party in this province shows that it remains committed to the investment of the people of this province. We are transparently advancing opportunities for all in this province and ensuring that every resident enjoys a quality of life with higher prospects to succeed in all that they aspire to attain. I think the other 8 provinces will actually prove that we are better at that. Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker.
The Honourable Minister to reply.
Honorable, dankie en achtbare adjunct speaker. Dankie ook aan ons voorsitter van die begrotingskomitee, meneer Dennis Joseph. Dankie vir u leierskap en ook ondersteuning vir hierdie begroting. Die Finansiestaande Komitee voorsitter neem aktief deel in die oorsigrol van die provinsiale tesorie en ek wil hulle graag hiermee bedank. Ook dankie aan die Staande Komitee vir die erkenning van die rol van die interministeriële komitee oor infrastruktuur. Aan die voorsitter ook dankie vir die insette ten opsigte van die Western Cape Gambling and Racing Board. Achtbare Joseph, ek het onlangs vergader met die National Gambling Council. Het ek bygewoon saam met die Western Cape Gambling and Racing Board, saam met minister Rob Davies in Gauteng, en ons is nog steeds in gesprekke met DTI in die verband. Dankie ook achtbare lede vir die erkenning van die rol van my amptenare in die provinsiale tesorie. Hulle is uitstekend, bekwam, bevoegd, fit for purpose. Achtbare Beerwinkel, u het die opmerking gemaak dat ons sit op die minmek, ons sit op die begrotingsraad. In the Democratic Alliance, we don't sit on the minmek, we don't sit on the Budget Council. In this government, we serve on these councils. It is a big difference. In the National Assembly, they sit on committees and hulle sit en hulle raak vet. Here we serve. Honorable members, I think it is important for the record that the honourable member has referred to our international partnerships. In this cabinet, I am responsible for the management of the Regional Leaders Summit, and I want to report that in terms of the specific benefits that was done through the interaction with the Free State of Bavaria, we have made a substantive contribution through international relations with the development of the multi-purpose center in Khayelitsha, when it was opened by my friend, Minister Siegfried from Bavaria in Khayelitsha. So there was a direct benefit in a poor area. There was also earlier a specific benefit from a multi-purpose center that was built in Nyanga as a result of the Free State of Bavaria's financial commitment and involvement. We also have in a poor area, and all of you have been there, they have benefited from Amantla Football, a Bavarian German NGO. We would also have assisted the regional socio-economic program and the violent protection through urban upgrade. And in that particular regard, the German Development Bank has given us in this province 5.3 million euros. So I think the record speaks for itself that supported these various poor areas. We would like to assist ANC-run municipalities. We would like to do that. Show me where it is. Show me. Any DA-run ANC-run municipality, and we support them. There's none. But our international relations,
Order.
our international relations supports, we support every single municipality in the Western Cape. Also, Honourable Deputy Speaker, I heard during this debate that the chairperson of the Standing Committee, Honourable Member Joseph, reported in this House that the MEC for Finance in the Northern Cape has been criminally charged for financial misconduct and fraud. For the record, it is an ANC MEC in that particular province. We have also, for the record, supported Swellendam Municipality with a local government financial support grant, and there is now an intern and supported by this provincial treasury. When the ANC lose an argument or they lose an election, they don't have a democratic culture. That's why every week they organize marches right here in Parliament, and we say it's fine because we believe in participatory democracy. We say it is fine because we believe in the Constitution. We say people can march, they can demonstrate.
Order.
We believe it is their democratic right to. We say can come and march. It is part of your constitutional right.
Order. Member,
You
Member
can
Davids.
march, but in a democracy, you must win an election. You can march, but you must win votes. So we believe, continue to march. It is in your democratic right. We support it. But you must win election. When the ANC lose an argument, when they lose an election, they organize marches. That is your style. That is your style of politics. Our style of politics,
Order.
your style of politics is to march. Our style of politics is to win elections. That's why there's a government here in the Western Cape. So march on. Our style of politics is to win elections.
Order. 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 There's too much. Order. There's too much dialogue going on next to the minister and across the floor. Minister, continue.
I repeat, when the ANC lose an argument and an election, they organize marches. That is their style of politics.
Order. Minister,
Deputy
just
Speaker.
order. Order. Honourable Nkonde.
Deputy Speaker, I think it was here a couple of minutes ago, you cautioned all of us here about relevance and sticking to the Blue Book.
Yes,
I'm not
you
sure
are-
whether you're
you-
not
you are
listening
right.
to the MEC.
I was hoping the minister would end with that. He's, in a way, he was responding to the honourable member Beerwinkel, but I think he's going a little bit wide now. Minister, you may
Yeah, we are
continue.
not in a comedy show here.
Order. Minister, you may continue.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I think that point is noted. We win elections. I move on. I think the Provincial Treasury, Honourable Members, the Honourable Members will know that the Provincial Treasury has been accredited by the National Treasury to provide financial systems training on behalf of the National Treasury all over to the provinces as well as to the national government departments, and we will continue to do so. Honourable Deputy Chair, there's an irony in this debate. And thank you, Minister Windy, for pointing out the irony during this debate. One member complained about us. I have been mandated by this government to do a study to investigate the feasibility of a fuel levy. I am now being criticized in this House for this study. But when the ANC was in power in this government, when Minister Lynn Brown, when she was the MEC, luckily I have read the files.
Order. Order.
Lynn Brown was the MEC of Finance, and when I became the Minister of Finance, I went to the file and I read what was the communication between Lynn Brown at the time and Trevor Manuel, the Minister of Finance. And in that communication, the Minister Brown asked on behalf of this government that we must implement a fuel levy. She wrote as the ANC MEC for Finance to Minister Manuel. Minister Manuel wrote back to her and said, yes, I agree, there must be a fuel levy. So there is the irony. This is not grandstand. This is reading the files which you don't open when you become MECs. We open those files. We read this documentation. Thank you, Minister Windy. I like what you did now. It's called collegiality. Thank you. That, I don't know where Lindbra now is. I can't say.
Order.
I know she's in a pier. Honorable,
Order.
if the honourable member say she doesn't know what happens in the cabinet, before you go to a cabinet, you brief your caucus. I briefed this caucus about the fuel levy, then I went to the cabinet. So if they don't do this, it shows there's a breakdown between the executive and the legislature. That breakdown between the legislature and the executive is precisely the reason why they kicked out Ibrahim Rasool. So in your caucus, you must ask your chief whip to put items on your caucus agenda, then you discuss it, and then you process it. I don't take anything to the cabinet before I inform the caucus. It's called caucus management. In the absence of your caucus management, you have damagement. And so, I think the issue of the fuel levy is now exhausted. The ANC supported it. We are now supporting it. We are doing a study to finalize, and we are updating the research. And we think in this regard, Lynn Brown did outstanding work. And in this regard, we think Minister Manuel did outstanding work. But the time has moved on, so this cabinet has asked me to update the research and also take into context the economic situation. And the cabinet has given me that mandate. That mandate is currently being now instituted. Honourable members, in the National Assembly, my colleagues take part in that debate of the DORA. They make submissions, and those submissions are taken into the national geopolitical budget space. Today, Honourable Deputy Speaker, I want to announce in this House that today I have signed a letter with concrete and substantive proposals on this national budget, and I'm sending the letter off today to Minister Nene. Not hot air, not shouting in the House. I've written a clear professional letter to him with things which I ask him to consider. And knowing him and working with him, I think he's a reasonable man. And I'm certainly looking forward to further engagements with him in the National Treasury. So I have written to him, and I'm very thankful for that discussion. Also, honourable members have spoken now about the rating agencies.
Order. Honourable Olivier.
I'm almost concluding, Honourable Deputy Speaker. The members have spoken about the rating agencies and the downgrade. I want to report to this House that thanks to Minister Windy, we have met with the Premier and the rating agencies about this, precisely this particular matter. We have briefed them. They've offered some assistance because the rating agency also has a foundation, because they said they cannot just simply declare something or make a statement. They also want to help. And so this Moody's Foundation and Minister Windy and the Premier is now in consultation to assist all of us, all of our clients in the Western Cape for this specific situation. So we have now decided to step up to the plate, and I think, Honourable Member, you will appreciate. Thank you for that input that you made. We have now successfully engaged with the Moody's rating agencies, and we will continue to do so because a capable state, one of the pillars of the National Development Plan, Honourable Member Mkonto, one of the principles of the National Development Plan is to build a capable state. One of the requirements of a capable state is to engage with international rating agencies. And we do so not only in the interest of the Western Cape, but in the interest of South Africa, because in the national budget, the National Treasury speaks about the implications of the drought for the country and the economy of the whole country. So in that context, we are helping the National Treasury through the conversation which Minister Winde has started, so that we can also assist in that geopolitical macro environment. So I'm particularly pleased that this discussion is continuing and will certainly continue. Also, lastly, Honourable Deputy Chair, I want to thank all the members of the Standing Committee on Finance, and particularly members of the that serve on Vote 3. I want to thank also the HOD, Mr. Zakaria Hussain, together with the senior staff in the department, and all the members that are seated there at the back. They have done an outstanding job in putting this budget together. Thank you, Zak, and thank you all the colleagues here that's sitting there, and also thank you, special thanks and deep appreciation also to Paul Pinar, who he and his team to put all these technical documents and the tables and the annexes together. I really think it is a remarkable piece of work that they have done, and I really want to put on record not only but the Cabinet and this whole Parliament and the people of the Western Cape thanks and appreciation for the work and the long hours that you've done. And that also includes my staff up there in the gallery. Thank you, Nona. You are doing a great job also in communication. I thank you.
That concludes the debate on this vote. We will now suspend business and we will resume again when the bells will be rung. We will try and save some time and come back any time between 1:15 and 2 o'clock, maximum 2 o'clock, and we might even start earlier, but the bells will be rung to indicate when we start. It all depends on the availability of the next department. Thank you. The House is suspended.